Well, good morning, my friends. Today is quite possibly the nicest day of the summer here yet. And why, might you ask? Well, because it's just a beautiful fall type morning. It's a beautiful fall type morning. I know it's only the end of August. It's right around the very end of August, but it's nice and cool this morning. Coolest day yet. There used to be a lot of elk in this area here. I'm not far from where I saw that, or I never saw it. Another viewer saw that shadow behind me when I was sitting down chatting to you. I'm not far from that area right now. It's probably another, I don't know, maybe another couple miles around the ridge here. Anyhow, I am gonna get another email read out to you guys here today. Don't know exactly when I'll get this one posted, but I definitely got to read it. I actually contemplated not reading this one and reaching out. I was going to reach out to the fellow that wrote it into me. Old creek bed here. You know what? It's a good spot to take a break. So I was going to reach out to the gentleman that wrote this into me and ask him how he felt about me not sharing this email, because it's pretty graphic. But I thought, you know what, that's not fair, because he'll probably say no if you don't have to read it if you don't want to. So I decided to hell with it, I'll read it. And maybe just warn everybody beforehand. Okay, find a spot, take a seat here, and get this read out for you. All right. I'm trying to get as many of these emails taken care of as I can before I go hunting. I'm out of here in a few weeks, and I'm gone for about a month. Not quite a month, like 25 days. So I'm trying to get as much done as I can before I leave. And then I will, I'm going to probably have, definitely I have my phone with me when I'm there. There's no cell service or nothing, but I have my phone for pictures and stuff as well. An alarm clock and whatnot. But I'll have a bunch of emails saved on my phone, obviously. Try to get through a few more when I'm away hunting. So I think I got about 8 left right now in my inbox. So beautiful morning, quiet. Not too quiet. I hear some birds. Anyhow, I'm going to warn everybody right now about this gentleman's email. It's a little graphic, and I did contemplate not reading it, but that's not really fair. So here we go. Hi, Darren. I want to start off with saying thank you for all the beautiful nature content you share on your channel. It's hard to find good, honest people who insist on being themselves and sharing raw video of themselves enjoying the beauty of nature. I also spend a great deal of time in the woods. I love to hunt, hike, and camp in the backcountry with my wife, and solo as you do. I spent my life as a police officer and finally retired in 2015 after 39 years service. Thank you for your service. I spent most of my career in the Yukon and Northwest Territories, as it's the area of Canada that I love the most. Once I graduated Depot, I spent my first few years in the prairies of Canada before I transferred to the Yukon and fell in love with the North Country. I spent many years in remote Native communities. Some of them early on, I was the only officer in the community. Later in my career, most communities I served in had 2 or more officers in a village that sometimes only had a few hundred people. I spent all my free time hunting, hiking, fishing all over the territories and was fortunate to see some stunning country and beautiful animals. I've always known about the topic of Bigfoot and read a few early books about the beings. I do remember when the infamous Patty footage, the Patterson-Gimlin film, was made public, as well as many other news reports of these creatures being spotted across North America and later on around the world. I must be honest with you though, I was not a believer myself. Even after I saw the footage of Patty, I just could not commit to the idea that these beings are actually out in our forests and are real. I do have to admit, the footage of Patty was very convincing, but my mind wouldn't accept it as fact or 100% truth. Anyhow, most of the communities I worked in had more than one person that spoke of encounters with these wild men, or hairy men as they called them. I honestly don't know if there was a single post that I worked out of where there wasn't at least a few stories. My beliefs all changed for me in 1983 when I was living in a small village in the southeast Yukon. I was living in housing provided by the government in this small remote village, and I had a male husky dog that was 3 years old at the time. His name was Trapper, and he was a beautiful, friendly dog. He came everywhere with me and loved to hike and hunt with me as well. This particular outing, we were on a 3-day hike, about 2 hours from the village, and I had set my tent up on the bank of a small river. Trapper was never on a chain or rope unless we were at home and I needed to tie him up. Out in the bush, I'd let him off leash as he rarely went out of my sight. Late on the second evening, I had just finished dinner, and Trapper had eaten his dinner and was laying by the tent about 8 feet from the fire. I took my pan and my plate down to the river to clean them up, and I was kneeling down scrubbing my dishes when I heard Trapper barking and going crazy. I immediately thought grizzly, as this had happened many times in the past. He would hear or smell a grizzly and go crazy. As I stood up and spun around towards camp, I saw Trapper standing there going nuts, barking. As quickly as I saw him, I saw this thing come out of the willows from the right into the opening of camp, and it was moving very quickly. As this thing ran towards Trapper without even missing a stride, it grabbed him and ran off with him in its hand. I only heard a couple yelps from the distance, and everything went silent. I did have a revolver on my belt, but I'm telling you, Darren, this happened so fast, I wouldn't even have got my gun out of its holster. I was shocked, and yes, I was scared shitless, because what I saw was the same thing in the video of Patty. was the same thing the video of Patty depicted. This thing was massive, dark black, and on 2 legs, not 4. This was not a grizzly bear. This was what I did not believe in. I ran up to camp and in the direction that this thing went, and I stopped to listen and never heard a sound. I stood there for a couple minutes and then ran to the tent, grabbed my rifle and ammo. I took off after this fucking thing that had just taken my buddy from my camp. I went in the direction I thought this thing was going, but I never saw or heard it again. I stood out there in the middle of nowhere and started to sob. I was shocked and in disbelief, and I started telling myself that it had to have been a grizzly. There's no way it was one of these mythical creatures that I did not believe in. I started back to my tent, and when I got to my fire, I stood there and looked around for Trapper, thinking that maybe it was a dream or something. I then started walking around the camp, calling his name, and that's when I noticed a large print in the gravel. I walked over to it and saw 3 footsteps, right where this thing had grabbed my dog. I followed these footprints to the brush and then never saw any more. Again, I started to head back to where I thought this creature went and was calling Trapper the entire time. I uncontrollably started crying again as I slowly walked back to camp. I packed my gear quickly and hiked the 1 hour back to my truck. Once I was at my truck, I sat down and found myself crying, replaying in my mind what had happened. I couldn't believe what I just witnessed. I drove home and spent the night at home, still in shock, replaying in my mind what I had witnessed. The next day, I drove out to the river and hiked back into where my camp was. I spent the entire day hiking around looking for signs of Trapper. He was nowhere in sight. He was gone. It took me a while to tell my partner at work what had happened. As I started to tell him about the events of that day, I once again began to sob about my poor partner, Trapper. My buddy was in shock by what I shared with him. He said several times, "It had to be a bear, right?" Every time he said that, I insisted that, no, it was not a bear. I promise you that. Later that week, I started doing a bit more research on the sons of bitches that could kill a man's pet. Information at the time was pretty limited, but there was some. It was about a week after losing Trapper that one of the elders from the community, who I often had coffee with, came over and asked if we could have a coffee. I invited him in, and we sat at the kitchen table and had a coffee. He never said anything at first, so I said to him, "I suppose you heard about my dog." He said, "Yes, I heard about it a couple of days ago." He asked me if I saw what happened, and I said, "Yeah, I saw it all." He asked me if it was a bear. I said no, it was definitely not a bear. He then said, "Was it a hairy man?" I almost choked on my coffee, and I said, "Yes, it was a fucking big hairy man." This old guy started talking and never stopped for about 15 minutes. He told me how they've been seen around here from time to time over the years, but they very rarely ever show themselves. He then said, "Remember, these are a wild animal, just like the bear and the wolf and the wolverine. They see another animal as food, and that's all. I gotta tell you, Darren, I was literally in shock as this old man told me stories he's heard, and also of his sighting of one of these beings when he was younger and fishing along the river. I struggled for a long time trying to accept the fact that this mythical being that I don't believe in actually does exist. It took a long time to get over the loss of my buddy, and I never got another dog as a pet because I felt I had failed trapper and did not protect him. I spent 30 plus years working and playing in the remote Yukon and Northwest Territories, and I never saw another one of these bastards, nor any sign of them. I'm here to tell you for a fact, they did exist, and most likely they still do exist. People have a right to believe, and people have a right not to believe in whatever they want. But from a long time non-believer, they were/are real, and everyone has the right to know this. I'd be happy to share some conversations with you that I had with many of the native people in the region who had first-hand contact with the hairy man. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll jot down some more stuff I've heard over the years. Keep up your journeys in the wilderness, Darren. You don't seem to let too much change what you love to do. Always keep your head on a swivel and your senses on high alert. I've heard you say several times throughout some of your videos about trusting your gut. Don't ever sway from that. It'll save your life. All the best to you and yours, Lucas. Wow. Like I literally have chills right now. Not because it's cold. That email, I read that 3 times. This is the 4th time I've read that email, and it just frickin' sends chills down my spine. I don't know if I've ever personally heard of one of these things taking a pet or a dog or anything like that. I obviously have heard of them grabbing game animals. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody witnessing a live game animal, moose, caribou, deer, elk, whatever, being taken. But like somebody's pet. Holy shit. I mean, that really makes you wonder. You know, I get it. That elder said to him, I get it. They're a wild animal and they need to eat. They're a wild animal and they need to eat, and wild animals, they don't know the difference, right? They see, when they see something, if they're hungry, they see food. That's why grizzlies charge people and whatnot. Sometimes it's out of fear, sometimes they get startled, sometimes it's protection, and sometimes they're just damn hungry. But I just can't even imagine that. Like, I'm a dog lover. I've had dogs my entire life, and I love dogs. I love all pets, but I just couldn't imagine. I've lost, obviously, no dogs live forever. I've lost several dogs over my lifetime, pets, and it's like they're part of the family, and that would just be fucking devastating, man. Anyways, Lucas, I was gonna email you, and I was leaning towards not sharing that just because it's pretty awful, but you shared it, and so I shared it to everybody here watching. Man, my heart goes out to you. And I did email Lucas back and asking, I want to hear some more from these elders and him and whoever. I'd like to hear some more about what they have to say. And I'd sure like to know if that elder person that he spoke with way back then about his dog said any more. God almighty. That just makes a person, really makes a person think. Just in the freaking blink of an eye, life can be taken so quickly. But in that respect, that way, like, unreal. Anyways, I was out fishing a few days ago and I cut my finger bad. Really, really bad. I sliced it from tip right down to, from the tip, I sliced it right down the inside, down to almost to the base of the finger, and not with a knife, with a downrigger braided fishing line cable. And it hurt bad. Still hurts. Mrs. Outlaw fixed me all up, cleaned it all up a few times, and taped it all up. And she said I needed stitches, but for us to go to the hospital right now and get stitches for something like that, I'd be waiting there for 4 or 8 hours just to get some stitches. So I just told her to close it up good with some band-aids. I'll be fine. It'll be a hell of a scar, but whatever. It is cool. I don't know what time it is. It's got to be probably 7:30 or something now. But the sun's up. It's beautiful, but it's cool. I love it. I still can't. A lot of these emails that I've read, a lot of them, I can't get out of my head. You know, I just can't turn it off. That's the way I work. But I just think about these people that have seen these beings and you know, how they feel afterwards, and especially something like that when you lose. I don't care what anybody says, when you lose part of your family, that's a pet is a huge part of your family. That would be friggin' traumatic, man. And sad that he never got another dog, another pet, that he felt it was his fault. Like, you know, if that was a grizzly bear, no difference. The only difference if it was a grizzly is you may have had a chance to kill the grizzly, but, you know, do you kill a grizzly because it's trying to feed itself? Like, I personally don't blame the bears. Even a lot of the times when bears charge and attack people, I don't blame the bears. It's not the bears' fault. We're intruding in their territory. We're in their kitchen, right? So it's not really the wild animal's fault. But yeah, I mean, it can happen so quick. Anyways, Lucas, brother, if you're watching this, my heart goes out to you, man. That's a horrible, horrible experience. I don't think anybody can imagine going through something like that. And I sure hope to have contact with you. Maybe we can have a phone call or something and chat it out. And I got a lot of respect. You know, I said thank you for your service, Lucas. A lot of respect for, as I said before, people that put their lives on the line to protect others. My dad was a police officer his whole life. Unbelievable man. And he served his entire career as a police officer protecting others. Yeah, just as Lucas did. So thanks again for that, my man. And God bless you. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to even do any more taping today, really, guys. I think I'm going to just spend the rest of the morning here. I'm going to hike for a couple hours here, and I think I'm just going to spend the rest of the morning on my own. And just no talking, no videoing, just enjoying nature and the sights and sounds. So I hope you all have a great day. Be safe, be kind. Remember, you guys, it takes a lot less energy to be a good human being than it does to be a douchebag. Okay? I'm out of here. Take care. Yeah, I know I said no more footage, but I just thought I'd show you guys these beautiful berries. All sorts of them here. Beautiful little berry patch. one thing you got to be careful about when you come across edible berry patches like these, you got to be careful of the animals that eat them. And in this area, that would be bears. I just jumped a herd of elk in here, and by the time I flipped the camera open, they were gone. But there was probably I saw probably 6 or 8, and they were just right up here at the top of this draw. And there looked to be looked like there was a pretty good bull there with them. It's elk mating season right now, so the elk are in the rut, and yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm just gonna go up there a little ways here and just see if possibly we can see them, but I think they're gone. They took off in a bit of a hurry. I gotta be really careful out here today, because that's why I'm staying out of the steep country. I don't want to use my hand and grab a hold of something or whatever and tear that cut open again. I think it bled for like probably 4, well, more than that, probably bled for 8 hours. So I don't want to open it back up again. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. They were right in here. Oh well. It just so happens that elk are one of the smartest animals out there. They're a super smart animal. They're really tough to hunt. So they won't stick around. They'll be gone. Anyways, pretty cool to see. I love seeing any wildlife out here, actually. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to try to keep going here with a few more emails over the next couple weeks, but you'll have to bear with me because I'm really busy putting the icing on the cake for the hunting trip and getting things ready to go. So, and thanks to everybody for emailing in. Whether you're sharing an experience about Bigfoot or sharing an experience about your personal adventure, fishing, hunting, hiking, whatever it is, I love hearing about it. And I think we have a pretty awesome community of people here at Outlaw Country. I try to make sure and comment to everybody and respond to everybody as best I can. And yeah, I appreciate all your guys' feedback and support. So, okay, guys, I'm gonna get the hell out of here, get to my truck, and we'll catch you another time. Take care.